this also came out of NBC News. It's a 22-year-old named Cole Schmidtknecht. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing his name here. So he tried to get a refill on an inhaler that was prescribed to him by a doctor to prevent asthma attacks. The medication had formerly cost him about $70 at his local pharmacy where he lived at in Wisconsin. That price just skyrocketed basically overnight to $500. He wasn't able to afford it, so he ended up leaving the pharmacy with some medications, but not the inhaler that he needed. And basically 5 days later after that, he had a severe asthma attack, stopped breathing, and he collapsed, and he never regained consciousness. He actually died. The doctors who called his time of death attributed his death to his asthma attack.
It makes me feel all the feelings at once.
I shared this story on Instagram, and the thing I said on there was that I was tired of having this debate, and that I was tired of, having conversations like this where we have to relitigate again and again and again and again why it is so important for us to have universal health care. Yeah. And I'm going to get more into my feelings about all of this here, but I want to open up the floor to you first. What were your thoughts when you first heard this come down the pipe?
To me, this is what I always say. This is criminal. This isn't just immoral and unethical. To me, there's a real criminal element to this. I mean, there is so much blood on these people's hands and the system's hands. And, I've been working in the space of healthcare for all for a long time, volunteering in ways. And I've heard countless stories of people over the years talking about the suffering, the unnecessary suffering and the unnecessary death that has happened to them and to their family and friends because they simply did not have the money to gain access to either medications or procedures or just doctor's visits, right? And how things got worse and worse and worse. And somebody just needed, a medication for their foot and they couldn't get it. And then they went septic and lost their foot. So it's like this is what I mean when we're talking about everyone deserves and needs healthcare. Okay, we can look at it from a personal perspective, but from a societal perspective, we are not a productive. If we care about capital and productivity, if we want to turn it around and face it that way for people that don't care if people live or die, well, we can't be productive. We can't work if we're ill all the time, if we're dying and if we're sick. So to me, it's like, for all the reasons this story broke my heart, but when I think about it as just a human being and the idea, like, this is probably why I could never work in a pharmacy, Desmond, not that I am one, but if I was, because I would be like, don't tell anybody, I'm just going to give it to you. Like, I would get fired in a day because I wouldn't be able to stand by and watch that kind of an injustice, because to me, he should absolutely have walked out of there with medication. And if he couldn't pay for it, there should easily be a government fund that says, hey, this kicks in if you come and say you can't pay for it. And if you can pay for it, it's because it's like $10. Nothing should cost any medicine like that. That's so common. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? That's the other thing that I find really sick about this is, why did this medicine suddenly jump in price? What was the reasoning for that? Why was he not notified? Why was it $70 to begin with? When I saw 70, I thought that was a lot. If you work a minimum wage job, that wipes out a large part of a paycheck. Yeah. So once again, like, who is this medication for? Who?
Right. So one of the things that I saw further in this NBC piece,
so angry,
was that one of the things that they want to do in regards to this story is like, well, maybe what we need to do is like give people like a 90-day notification that the prices are going to go up, and not just do it overnight, because that's the solve here. That's how they want to fix this problem. It's funny how the solve for the problem wasn't just, hey, maybe life-saving medication shouldn't be priced anywhere near that high, or maybe it shouldn't have a price at all. Right. Like this is something that I come back to time and time again. When people argue against universal health care, they always have the same argument, which tells me that they come from the exact same propaganda school. We don't want to have higher wait times. I got to tell you, as somebody who is a part of the healthcare industry right now, Wait times are a part of the system today.
Of course they are.
I've waited months to see doctors with
Yes.
really great insurance right here in America, in my town.
Thank
They're
you.
right there. I couldn't see them for months because they are backed up waiting for patients. Oh, well, the quality of care would get worse. Is it? Okay, ask me this. If there are 73 countries in the world who have universal health care, why are they not all transitioning to for-profit healthcare systems if their quality of healthcare is so bad? Why is it that every single time that the conversation even gets brought up in the UK, for instance, about getting rid of the National Health Service, the country goes into full revolt?
Yes.
Okay, this is a country that has similar political dynamics to us, by the way. It's not like it's just like some
Correct.
liberal enclave. They're pretty split down the middle, liberal and conservative over in the UK. They're all united. They don't want to lose it. Medicare is a really popular program here in America for people who are liberal and conservative. It is essentially, encompassing healthcare for them, like once you get over the age of 65, right? We are talking about just giving that to everyone. A very popular program that everyone already likes and make sure that everyone has it here. Other countries do it. They're not trying to get away from it. They're not, the wait times thing, that's a ridiculous misnomer. People talk about price. You would end up paying less when you factor in all the costs involved. Yes, you would pay more in taxes, but you wouldn't be paying premiums anymore. You wouldn't be dealing with co-pays or deductibles. People are on health insurance plans now where their deductible is like $5,000.
Oh,
and the
mine's
insurance
$7,800.
Insurance companies actually have memos out there saying that they put their deductibles in spots like $5,000 because they know that over 90% of Americans never pay more than $5,000 in a given 12-month span. Right. Therefore, if they set the deductible there, they know that they'll never have to pay a dime over the course of a year, and you'll just be paying your premium to them. So it's just like a giant boon for them. They never give you anything. You just give them money. That is our system. Yep. Why the hell would you want to defend that? Why would you want to defend that?
Because otherwise it's socialism. I mean, this is what I'm saying. The level of propaganda that has been pushed on us is so ingrained in people that they are so afraid of a word that when you speak to them plainly about something, that is the inevitable rebuttal from the right. You're a communist. You're a socialist, which are not the same thing, by the way, but they don't even know that. So I think this is why we've got to find a way. And I'm not sure. I think having these kinds of conversations really helps because it is not a radical idea for everyone to have health care.
No.
That is not radical. What is radical is a 22-year-old dying because he cannot afford a $500 life-saving medication and he was allowed to leave to die. That's what happened. They said to him, basically, we don't care. You can go die.
Yeah, can I speak on this for a second?
Sure.
Natalie, because give you a personal thing really quickly here.
Mm-hmm.
I had thousands of dollars of medical debt that I could not pay back.
Mm-hmm.
When that happened, that money went into collections.
Mm-hmm.
When that happened, my credit score tanked. When that happened, I was unable to leave the apartment that I was in because my credit score was so bad that I couldn't actually apply to get a new apartment because my credit score just said I was a terrible person, essentially.
Right.
And I was stuck living in the same place for years because I couldn't find a place that would even accept me to take me in because my credit score had tanked because of collections from medical bills. And I couldn't work as much as I needed to because I was still dealing with an ongoing condition that was never fixed when I actually first went to the doctors in the first place and was trying to get this all addressed. It is a massive domino effect. And that all comes from getting sick and then not having the money to pay for it. And it had repercussions throughout my life. I was having my bank account garnished. Like money that I was going to use to pay for the rent was just taken straight out of my bank account to pay for these collections. So I had to stop using my own bank account to make sure that my rent money wouldn't be stolen from me. It was an absolute nightmare. I had to ask a friend if I could use their bank account to keep my money in it for a little while so I wouldn't have my rent money stolen from me again for these medical bills I couldn't pay. It is a nightmare what will happen to people when you do not have money to actually pay for being sick. We don't have to live in a society like that. There are so many other countries that have already figured this out. and they have implemented universal health care. We don't have it here because the medical insurance industry, the pharmaceutical industry, has paid so much money to our politicians that they
That's
have
right.
convinced people that they can't have something that millions and millions of other people around the world have.
That's right.
And we don't have to listen to them anymore.
Amen. I'm really sorry that you've had that experience. And unfortunately, you are one of millions of Americans.
Yeah.
And to the point where the Biden administration, one of the things they were going to do was decouple that medical debt from impacting your credit score. And
Yeah.
I believe it was since reversed by the Trump administration. So once again, cruelty is the point of these policies, keeping people in poverty and forced to constantly pay and pay and pay so that this 1% can become that much richer. That is criminal. And we will never see change. I truly believe this unless we overturn Citizens United, because that is the beginning. That is one part of it, of dealing with the campaign finance reform that is so desperately needed. Because to your point, all of
Yeah.
these politicians have been bought and paid for, whether it's by the NRA, whether it is by big pharma or big healthcare. I mean, I live in Pennsylvania, and we have two insurance providers here on the western side of the state. It's either UPMC or Highmark, and that's pretty much it. And they've created their own little kingdoms here, and they don't pay taxes, and they're basically creating real estate, holds for themselves. And
Right.
my mom was a nurse there for many years, and they tried to say that they had no employees, that they shouldn't have to pay for the nurses because they actually didn't have any employees because they were a nonprofit. Like, this is the level of sadism that these large corporations are doing, and they have loads of lawyers and loads of money, and you literally have two choices in Pittsburgh if you want healthcare, and they're both terrible. So we have a monopoly here, hence why we're paying premiums that are far above what we should. And so
Right.
on every level, whether it's your own personal health story or whether it's a collective situation, this healthcare system does not work for us, but it does work really well for the people in power. And I think in order to deal with this, we've got to grab it by the root, because trimming the little leaves off, it's not working.
Right. The very last thing I want to say about this is really short
Yes,
before we transition to our final topic here. As we are going into a new election cycle, and we are thinking about who is going to be representing the Democratic Party in 2028, I have said and will continue to say just how important it is that we have somebody who actually believes in universal health care, because there's going to be dozens, and I mean, there'll probably be at least like 25 or more people who run for president in 2028. So it's not like you're going to be like locked into like one person or the other. You're going to have choices. And when you have that choice,
That's right.
I just hope that most people will not get behind the candidates that want to continue to prop up these industries. We want to be going after and endorsing people that actually want to directly challenge the corporations and the billionaires, not people who want to do everything they can to be on their side. So please just remember that when the time comes.
Amen. Like Tim Walz said in a recent interview, we're never going to win another election if we don't guarantee healthcare for all.
No.
Like, that's just truth right there. You want people to come vote? Give them healthcare. Give them the things that they deserve so they can survive and maybe actually thrive a little. Gee, what an idea.